All right, welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Today, we're tackling Think Straight. Change your thoughts, change your life.
By Darius Foro.
Yep, that's the one. It's all about, well, I think the title kind of says it all, right? How much power we have over our thoughts.
Yeah, and how learning to, as he puts it, think straight can really make a difference.
Seriously, like change your life difference.
That's what he argues.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
We've got stories, history, techniques, the whole works.
So where do we even start with all of this?
Well, I think what struck me is how Foro brings in William James.
Oh, the psychologist.
Yeah, super influential guy. And, James struggled with pretty bad depression.
Really? I didn't know that.
But the thing is, he had this epiphany that he could choose his thoughts.
He didn't have to just be controlled by that?
Exactly. It wasn't just him being a prisoner to his own mind.
Wow, that's pretty powerful coming from someone like him.
Right. And Foro uses this to show we've all got that choice. We might not control every thought that pops up.
Oh, tell me about it. My brain is a wild place.
But we can choose what we focus on, which ones we let go.
Okay, that makes sense. It's kind of like that quote,
You become what you think about all day long.
Yeah. Ralph Waldo Emerson. It's so true.
And that's what Foro is building on here. It's not just about positive thinking, it's deeper.
So it's not like just slapping a smiley face on everything and pretending.
No, it's way more active. Foro actually compares the mind to a muscle.
Okay, we got to work it out.
Right. We train our bodies, why not our minds too?
Makes sense. I can totally see that. Especially when you're thrown into something new.
Oh, yeah.
Like when I moved to London, oh man, finding a place to live there, it's a nightmare.
Oh, I bet.
So stressful. I had to force myself to think straight, just to handle it all.
It's like your mind needed that workout to adapt.
Yeah.
That's a perfect example. And that's what Foro is all about. Lifelong learning, challenging how we think. He's got this great visual chaos versus clarity.
Ooh, I like that. So how do we cut through the chaos?
All right. How do we find the useful thoughts?
Out of all the junk floating around up there.
Well, he breaks it down into two types. Problem-solving thoughts.
Okay, like figuring stuff out.
And understanding knowledge. Taking in new info and seeing how it applies to us.
Those both seem pretty crucial if you ask me. But there's just so much info out there.
I know. It's overwhelming.
And how do we not get stuck in bad thinking habits?
That's where filtering comes in. Foro says be careful with heuristics.
Heuristics? What are those again?
Mental shortcuts, like relying on social proof.
Oh, right. Like if everyone's doing it, it must be good?
Exactly. Or sticking with just what's familiar.
So we can't just follow the crowd or play it safe?
Not always. His big thing is true is what works.
I love that. Cut through the BS, what actually gets results.
That's it. And that means testing our beliefs, not just assuming.
Ooh, assumptions. Those can be dangerous.
For sure. And this all goes back to self-awareness, knowing yourself. Foro, like William James, really emphasizes that.
Know thyself, right. Easier said than done sometimes.
Tell me about it.
Took me a while and a few relationship mishaps to figure out my own values.
Oh.
Like this one time, my ex and I, total clash of visions for the future.
Yikes.
Values just didn't line up. It's hard when that happens.
It is, but those are the things that make you think, right? What matters most.
Absolutely. So how do we get better at this whole self-awareness thing, besides heartbreak, I mean?
Well, Foro's big on journaling and just taking time to reflect, figure ourselves out.
Okay, sounds like a plan. Less drama, more reflection.
Exactly. And from there, Foro gets into some really practical tools for turning all this thinking into action. And it's cool how he doesn't just leave us hanging with all this know yourself stuff.
Right, okay, now what?
He's got tools, like actual things we can do.
Give me an example.
So he talked about building systems and habits to kind of automate parts of our lives.
But we don't have to think about them all the time.
Exactly. He's got his own systems, like his exercise routine.
Oh, yeah, makes sense.
Or financial rules he follows. It's like free up mental space.
For the more, creative stuff.
Exactly. So less decision fatigue, more energy for the big picture.
Okay, I like where this is going. What else does he suggest? Besides systems, I mean.
He talks about overthinking, like analysis paralysis,
Oh, yeah. Spend hours researching a vacation and never book it. That's me.
So he's all about being decisive, trusting your gut, especially when an opportunity comes up.
But what if you make the wrong choice?
Well, he's got a point about regrets.
Oh, do tell.
We regret what we didn't do more than what we did.
That's interesting. So it's the fear that holds us back.
Yeah, like fear of missing out or making a mistake. It keeps us from just living.
Okay, that's deep. And probably true.
So he says live in the moment, right? Make the most of your time.
Be present. That's what everyone says.
But he takes it further. Be intentional. Do stuff that lines up with what you care about, what you're trying to achieve.
Don't just go through the motions, right?
Exactly. And this is where it gets really interesting. This whole thinking straight thing, he says, it leads to inner peace.
Really. Like calmness.
Yeah, like when you can quiet all that mental noise.
Focus on what matters.
That's it. You create this inner peace that nothing can really shake.
I can see that. It's like no matter what's happening around you.
You've got this solid core.
Exactly.
And it's not just about feeling good, right? It's about thinking clearly.
Leading to good choices, good actions.
It affects everything. How we work, how we relate to people.
Makes sense. So it's not just self-improvement. It's about like how we impact the world.
That's a great way to put it. And Thoreau actually shares this story about William James, the guy we were talking about before.
Oh, yeah. What about?
So his friend Charles Sanders Peirce, another philosopher, was having money troubles. And James, he helped him out. No questions asked.
That's really kind of him.
And it shows that this whole pragmatism thing, it's not just about being selfish, it's about helping others too.
Using your brains for good.
Right. And then Thoreau ends with this killer quote from James. The greatest use of a life is to spend it on something that will outlast it.
Whoa. That is a good one.
It really makes you think, right? What are we doing with our lives? What kind of impact do we want to leave behind?
Those are some big questions.
They are. But that's what this book is all about. It gives us the tools to start figuring those things out, starting with how we think.
I don't know about you, but sometimes it feels like life just throws so much at us.
Oh, absolutely.
Information overload, things we got to do,
Non-stop.
But this book, it reminds us we have choices.
Yeah, where we put our energy, what we focus on.
It's like taking back control.
Owning our thoughts.
Not just letting them run wild.
Right. Use them to create the life we want intentionally.
That's what I like about this book. It's not just, some vague self-help stuff.
Right, it's practical.
Like, okay, here's what you actually do.
Tools and strategies.
A real call to action. It's inspiring.
It is.
I mean, for me, it's about remembering to look inward.
Yeah, that self-reflection piece.
And putting systems in place.
To make things run smoother.
So we can focus on what matters. Make good choices.
Consciously.
So as we wrap up here, what are some things you hope our listeners take away from this? From our whole deep dive, really?
Well, I hope they feel empowered.
Like they can make a change.
That they have more control than they think. Over their thoughts, their lives.
It starts with that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Our mindset.
And being pragmatic.
What works, what doesn't. No sugarcoating.
Testing our beliefs, not just accepting things blindly.
And, for anyone feeling stuck, maybe a little lost.
Yeah.
Remember William James? This guy, brilliant mind.
Struggled too.
Depression, all of that.
But he found a way through.
By choosing to think straight.
Conscious effort.
Makes you realize anyone can do it.
We all have that power.
Oh, and we can't forget that quote. The one about life outlasting us.
From William James.
Yeah. The greatest use of a life. How did it go again?
The greatest use of a life is to spend it on something that will outlast it.
Powerful stuff. Makes you think about the legacy we leave.
What mark we make on the world.
Big picture stuff.
But it all starts with us. Our thoughts, our choices.
So listeners, as you go about your day, your week,
remember what we talked about.
You have the power.
To change your thinking, change your life.
And if you're looking for a roadmap, a guidebook,
check out Think Straight by Darius Thoreau.
Seriously, this book's got it all.
Practical advice, inspiring stories.
It's a game changer. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone.
Until next time.